First, we at WagerTalk would like to thank everyone as a record number of you took advantage of our Thanksgiving 7-day special. We hope you enjoyed the convenience of getting your favorite handicappers plays daily during the hectic holiday weekend, and we also know that December can be a crazy month. Now we are offering a rest of calendar year special. Get every NFL, college bowl game, NBA, NHL, college basketball games, and all other sports of your favorite handicapper through December 31st for only $249. The early bird really does catch a worm for this special as it starts the day you sign up. No coupon needed. Pay only $249 today or pay $249 in a few days. The choice is simple. Let's have a great ending to 2021.
Welcome back, guys, right here to WagerTalk TV. I am Andrew McInnis. I have Carmine Bianco with me and Brian Leonard. Happy Thursday to all of you guys out there. We have 4 games we are breaking down, best bets at the end, and of course, some promotions to go over. I'll tell you what, guys, I'm in a decent mood, not the best mood. That streak moved to 16-1 last night. The streak is over now. Had the Vegas Golden Knights in regulation. The streak, unfortunately, couldn't go on forever. I will say on record that was probably the best hockey run I've ever had, and it was a lot of fun. But back at it tonight. Look forward to starting the brand new streak, and I can't be upset about a 16-1 run still. But last night featured lots of great hockey games, especially that Pittsburgh and Edmonton game. Just outstanding hockey. Although looking at the McKinnon versus Matthews battle, that one went in Matthews' favor. And the mustacheless Matthews as well. Carm, you were there for that game with your father, with Prez, and I got to get your thoughts on the game, man.
Andrew, throwing a little bit of comedy into the show to start it off. Excellent run still, 16-1. Just keep it going, keep getting wins. Yeah, I was at the Leaf game yesterday. Disappointed that on the way down, I didn't hear that Comfort was a late scratch and they were putting the human Sif in net. I won't say stiff, Sif. If you're a cooker, you'll know what I'm talking about. Man, he couldn't stop a puck. If you like the under was pretty much dead. The minute they scored the first goal on him, they just opened them up continuously. I left when the score was 6-2. I had a jump on traffic to get out of there, but it's still an enjoyable game. And now the Colorado Avalanche are in Montreal tonight, and they're going to, it looks like they're going to their EBUG, their emergency goalie tonight. So that's probably a game where you might not want to take a side because you don't know what you're going to get out of the Avalanche tonight after yesterday's game. You don't know what you're going to get with them goaltending-wise. Might just be better off just playing the total in that one. But overall, one night for me yesterday. The Rangers got it done. I liked the Rangers and the under there, and that was the only game that actually stayed under the total. So I was pretty happy about that. And then, of course, the late game of the night, Vegas, as Brian mentioned, no goals in the first period, 11 goals in the last 2 periods of that game. So just a ton of goals last night in the NHL. Speaking of Brian, what's going on, my friend? Number 2 in NHL this year, number 2 in NHL last year. You're continuing to win year in and year out in this sport.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't been doing it for long, 5 years, my 5th year, but every year's been a winner. And congratulations to both of you, too. You're doing a great job. I fortunately was against Andrew in that game. If I knew he had the other side, maybe it was a different story. I don't want to go into a 16-0 run, but I just felt that knowing Vegas the way I do, they've had so many guys coming in and out of the lineup. Timing was going to be an issue, and they started getting it together late in the game. Made a nice little comeback, but still lose 6-5. And Anaheim, I don't know where this came from, but they've been a moneymaker all season long, and you've really got to have a good reason to bet against them because we're still getting value in the line on a team like this in Anaheim, and that's one of the reasons why I like hockey. Every year is different. It's not like the NFL where you know these teams are going to be really good every year. You're able to pick out an underdog early on in the season and ride them and make some money, and that's what we've been able to do with Anaheim.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, and again to you, Brian, just continuous success for you in hockey, and a big part of that is finding those underdogs as well. So hats off to you for that. And you mentioned the Anaheim Ducks, the value on them as well. Also, just the totals for them. This is a team that always gets 5.5s, and they seem to be flying over the total nonstop. You know, a team that kind of gives up goals, but they're also scoring themselves. And like you said, that's what I love about the NHL. It's what makes it interesting to handicap. But I remember when, you know, the NBA had 2 teams go to the NBA finals like 4 of 6 years. That's not fun. You know, I like it in the NHL, how it's always mixed up and it's always different. So today we're talking about the Blues and the Lightning, the Bruins, Predators, Flames, Kings, and the Blackhawks and the Capitals. Let's start things off with our very first game. Let's dive right into it with the Tampa Bay Lightning playing host to the St. Louis Blues. They are minus 150 at home, and the total is at 5.5. Carmine, I'll go to you first on this game. Obviously, we know what Tampa Bay was like at the start of the year. They've really kind of turned into more of a consistent team. However, the definition of inconsistency has probably been the St. Louis Blues this year. Up and down, score some, don't score some. But I think recently I've started to see the tides turn. Would you agree with that with me?
Yeah, well, they're playing better. You know, we've talked about it all season that last year they dug themselves in the hole with injuries. I'm talking about this St. Louis team, and they didn't have that problem this year. They had a really good start to the season and then followed that up with a terrible stretch of games, but they're playing better. That game against Tampa Bay, they could have folded the tent after 5.5 minutes. They were down 3-0. One crazy goal off these sideboards and through Binnington's pads, and all of a sudden they're down 5.5 minutes into the game. They're down 3-0. They could have folded up. They pretty much played phenomenal hockey for the last 55 minutes of that game, winning it in a shootout. By the way, Corey Perry should not be taking penalty shots for anybody. That guy was one of the worst penalty shots I've ever seen taken. But with that said, listen, I talked about Binnington. He was 4-0 going into that game, lifetime against Tampa. Now 5-0. You wouldn't have thought again after 5.5 minutes. But we're seeing 2 teams play again, and we're going to see the same thing with St. Louis against Florida. And normally, when 2 very good teams play, Andrew, and one of them wins the first game, I like to reverse the roles in the second game and take the other team. And just so happens that St. Louis won at home, and now they're in Tampa. So I'm just going to go to Tampa here. I'm going to lean on Tampa Bay to for a split of this little 2-game mini series, and that's probably something I'll look to do when St. Louis plays against the Florida Panthers in back-to-back as well too. Up next after this one, Bri, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I like Tampa Bay here. I think the line's a little bit cheap. You got a St. Louis team who been very good at home, but on the road they haven't played well, especially as of late. They've lost the last 4 games on the road, including losses to Detroit and Chicago. So they're not performing well against the lesser teams even. The last 6 games on the road, they've only scored 11 goals. That is a concern against this Tampa Bay team who can light it up. And Tampa Bay defense has been very good. You go back the entire month of November, I believe they've only given up 32 goals the entire month. They've just been very good. I like to take a look at expected goal percentage, and Tampa's very good, number 8th in 5-on-5, scoring 42, giving up 35. St. Louis is number 19, but yet they're scoring well, 47 to 39. I think that kind of is due for a little bit of regression. In fact, if you take a look at expected goals on this season, the Blues are actually minus 0.06. Although their actual numbers are plus 0.44. So they've been a little bit fortunate thus far. And you mentioned Tampa Bay starting the season as slow as they did. Now they're up to a 0.42 on the season on 5-on-5. And that's legit when you take a look at their expected goals of 0.41. So you got a team at Tampa Bay that's now playing on the season the way they should have been playing earlier in the season. And you're getting them at a discounted number here, especially with St. Louis on the road. Different team on the road, at least to me, at least the way they're playing right now. So I'll take Tampa Bay.
Is there anything like Brian, what Carm was saying that goes into your handicap, or is it just strictly a matchup as far as, hey, these teams just played? Like, how much of a factor does that really play for you? For me, it takes into account with the totals, not as much the side. Like when you're looking at this matchup, how much in your handicap does that matter that these 2 teams just recently played?
Oh, it definitely matters, especially if one is embarrassed by the other. Played a game the other day, and I think I can't remember what team it was, but they had lost on the road 6-1, and now they were coming back a week later and playing them at home. You know they remembered that. So many games in hockey come down to 1 or 2 goals, but if you get blown out, you remember that, and that's something I always like to take advantage of, especially if it's a good team. I've charted good teams since I've started handicapping hockey, and they really bounce back off of a bad performance when they played that team in the past and they were blown out. So that's something I always take a look at, and it's a situation that I always take into account. In fact, I'd prefer to play that because you know you're going to get your full effort, especially when it's 2 good teams. And what was mentioned was, St. Louis plays Tampa Bay now. They play back-to-back games against Florida. We'll find out how good how good St. Louis is at this point, because they've got those 3 big games. And I'm with Carmine there. If they come out in that game against Florida in that first game, and there's some strange score in that game, especially if they deserved it better. When you take a look at the expected goals, I like to come back and play the opposite the following game, and that's a game I'll be looking forward to. I'm hoping that game is a blowout, so we can come back and play their team the next game.
Yeah, Andrew, adding to what Brian said, and you look at games now when teams go to Florida now, and they've got to play Tampa Bay and they've got to play Florida. You're playing 2 of the best NHL teams. It reminds me of, and Brian will remember this, but you're a younger guy, of having to do the Alberta double when the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames had very good hockey teams. You would go and have to play one night, one the other. And it was a bad proposition for teams coming in. Very rarely did teams come into Alberta and win both games in Edmonton and Calgary. You could pretty much go with, if they won the first game, they were going to lose the second. And it was a great way of just with very little handicapping. You just took a team and you made money off of it. This is what it is in Florida now. You go to Florida, you're playing Tampa. They don't take too many nights off, and then you're playing Florida, who can light you up on the best of nights or the worst of nights. So with that said, this is a tough little stretch for this team right now.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of the time right now, they're making them go into a back-to-back against these 2 teams, 2 of the top teams in the league, which has been crazy. Going into the Sunshine State and playing both the Lightning and the Panthers back-to-back is not a good recipe for success. But for me, I like to look towards when 2 teams play, in a very short period of time, 2 games. Oftentimes, I look towards, if one game goes over, I try and look towards the opposite and look towards the under, because I think that the way you have film, the way that players can watch and learn, or coaches can make adjustments, some people might sit here and tell me, no, Andrew, these guys can't make adjustments that quickly. I beg to differ, and I disagree. They can make adjustments that quickly. They will, and it's fresh in their mind. So it actually might be better than if the game was longer apart. So that's why I have a lean towards the under in this game. And I think it could be a real tight check-in and really entertaining game. One quick point I want to make as well, Carmen, you mentioned that back-to-back against Florida and Tampa. I found that if teams are on like a 4 or 5 game road trip, after they've played the Florida and Tampa Bay, the next game, if they play a weaker team, it's been a big bet on spot for me. A step down in class type of game, like if you've played 2 tough teams in a row, you go to Buffalo, you go to New Jersey, you go to, hate to say it, Montreal, then, you're coming off 2 games against really quality clubs, and then all of a sudden, drop of competition, afterwards. So just a little bet on spot I've noticed.
Yeah, you know what? And you find these bet on spots at times. We've talked about it on Puck Time over the last couple of years. One good one, and I think Bri is aware of this one as well, too, was teams the game after playing in Vegas. Now, obviously, during the pandemic, things were a lot different. Casinos weren't open. The nightlife wasn't there. But teams leaving Vegas prior to that, and I haven't charted it yet this year, but leaving Vegas were a definite go against in their next game, no matter where it was. Bri, do you remember this at least, or am I losing it?
Of course.
Oh, yeah. The first couple of years out here in Vegas, it was real strong. And then the team started realizing that they couldn't go out partying all the time. But I haven't seen the numbers as of late, but I know that's something that is a concern anytime you're doing that. And to get back to Andrew's point about making the adjustments, just watch a hockey game. Between the periods, there are tons of adjustments. And that's why I like betting live hockey. because one team will dominate a period, and then the next period the other team comes back and people look at wait, well, it's a game and the teams are pretty equal in talent. It's going to happen, and that's why you can make a lot of money by betting live sporting events. And I think hockey is the best of all of them.
Great stuff, yeah, and that's also one of the reasons why teams change the way they play after a coaching change, not just because of the change in the locker room, but also the change in the message in the locker room. Let's keep things going with the Boston Bruins and the Nashville Predators here. We got the Nashville Predators at home, short dogs here, totals at 5.5. Brian, I'll hand the mic to you, man.
Yeah, let's take a look at this one. And Boston's one of those teams I'm kind of flummoxed on. They're number one in expected goal percentage on the season at 55.96. This is on 5-on-5, but yet they've been outscored 38-33, which is really hard to do when you're in the opposing goals that many times, opposing zones that many times, to not be able to score. Now, obviously, when they get a big three and somebody's missing, that's going to have an effect. So that's something you have to take a look at tonight. But they're number one, being outscored by 5. Just take a look at the next 3 teams. The Toronto Maple Leafs, plus 13. Calgary Flames, plus 22 goals. Florida Panthers, plus 20 goals. And here we are with Boston at minus 5. It's a severe positive regression candidate. I prefer Boston in that regard, but sometimes when you take a look at this, what is wrong? Maybe they just don't have the talent. I know the first line's carried them for years, and now some people are missing, but it's a team I'm looking to play on, and the line is pretty solid here. I think there's a little bit of value on it. Nashville's the team has been pretty good. They're about 50.16 expected goals percentage, and they're showing that at 39-39 on 5-on-5. When I take a look at expected goals per 60, what has actually happened so far for the Boston Bruins is they're minus 0.33. When you take a look at the expected goals, they're doing very well. So it's a much different team. They should be bouncing back and scoring. Maybe it's one of those things, and I've talked to Koken about it. He's mentioned this in the past in other sports. Maybe you just need to see them happen one time. And then at one time, maybe they could pull off an Andrew run where they can win 16 straight and we can get some pretty good numbers on them. But like Boston here, but don't know if I'll get there because they just have not done as well offensively as they should. Defensively, they've been terrific all season long. So we'll see what happens.
Carmen, do you agree? I mean, I'm right there with Brian on this team. I mean, sometimes maybe if the goals aren't going in, the talent might not be there. And there's been talk that the depth isn't there as much for this Bruins team. But I like the Bruins tonight. I think that the expected goal numbers will show for them tonight. And they're a big bounce back team. That's the way I see this Bruins team. They know how to jump back up and get right back out there. What do you think, Carm?
Yeah, Marchand's out tonight, so that's he's suspended for this game. But the only thing that worries me, and this I'm kind of leaning to the under here. I think it's the only way for me to go in this game is, you look at the Bruins and they seem to struggle against teams that play very well defensively, and Nashville can do that. They went into Florida. You look at 3 games in Florida. They score a goal, they lose 4-1. They lose 3-0 at Carolina. They lose 5-2 against the Leafs, who all of a sudden are playing very well defensively. And then they play games against teams where they just light them up. But those are teams like the Buffalo Sabres, New Jersey Devils, Philadelphia Flyers, all teams that are somewhat struggling. The Devils have looked good of late, or a little bit better of late. Now they're going to Nashville. They're going to get UC Saros in net likely tonight, a good goalie, a team that can play some defense. Do I want to take a side? It looks like a coin flip, one where it's probably slanted to a little bit to this Boston Bruins team, who still have a lot of quality on that team. But I'm leaning under here. I just think this is one of those classic 3-2, 3-1 type games, and that's the way I'm going to go here. I'm just going to go under 5.5 and lay a little bit of the juice.
I really like that play. Like that quite a bit, kind of like the under 5.5. I think that Saros has been great. And it seems to me right now that the best way for this Bruins team to get their act together and play some consistent hockey is by not playing in these high-scoring games and taking care of things defensively, not only before, but now with Marchand out, they'll have less goal production. Great play. I like the under as well with you. But I do like the Bruins. I think the Bruins can get it done, and they can start finding themselves again. And they do have guys that can step up, even without Brad. in the lineup. So it should be an interesting game. The Predators continue to surprise me a little bit, though, so we'll see what they can do tonight against this Boston Bruins team. We'll keep things going with this show with the Calgary Flames and Los Angeles Kings. We have the home team, the Kings, plus 120, Calgary Flames, minus 140 on the road. The total's at 5 here. And Carm, you know what we were doing last year with these 5s. It was the magic number. I don't have the stats with me right now, but I probably annoyed you with how many times I told you about these. It was pretty much a push or an over all season long last year with these 5s. Obviously, sometimes you aren't getting the best number on the 5s. You might even want to just take the 5.5 at a better price if you do like the over in this game. But when I look at this LA Kings team, I'll tell you, this is a team that I liked their mixture of youth and vets. I liked their speed. I liked what they were bringing. They had some good goaltending. But it seems to me like they're a little bit up and down, up and down, up and down. Not really a team I want to rely on. So I got to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised here by this price for Calgary.
I'm not surprised about the minus 135. The total, I'm surprised that we finally got a 5 out there, but you're definitely right. Last year, taking the over 5s, you had to lay some juice on them. It's usually minus 125 to minus 135 on those 5s, as opposed to them putting up a minus 5.5 and splitting at 110 either way. So with that said, I'm going to lean to Calgary here. The thing that I'm upset about is the fact that I said, on that Kings 7-game win streak, I got in front of them against Winnipeg. I thought that's where the streak would end. I should have just kept fading them because I knew that they were due for a losing streak, and they've lost 6 of 7, and I've only been on 2 of those. So I'm a little disappointed there. I'm going to have an advanced look ahead towards the end of the show that I want you guys to listen in on, because it's one where I think we can make some money. But as far as this goes, Andrew, I'm going to keep it simple before I throw it to Brian. I'm just going to take the better team here. If this game stays under the total, it's because of Calgary and how they play defensively, and they win this game 3-1. I'm going to lay the minus 135. Calgary's the better team here. I'm just going to go with the better team. Brian?
Well, I got a little bit of a surprise then, because I'm looking the other way. Calgary is the better team, no doubt about it. If you take a look at goals plus or minus per 60, 5-on-5, they're at 1.32, plus 1.32. Capitals are plus 1.32. That's the best in the league. Tell you how good that is. It's just the opposite of the Chicago Blackhawks, minus 1.33. And we all saw how Chicago got off to that terrible start this season, fighting their way back and making us some money in the meantime. But the reason why I'm looking to fade, well, I guess I'm not looking to fade Calgary. I'm looking to play on the Kings, is you mentioned it. The Kings are playing terrible right now. They've lost 6 of 7, but they have not been on the road since November 13th. All these games have been at home. They're a rested team playing at home, and they've lost. Like I said, they've been losing these games. They just lost out the other day on the 30th, just a couple days ago on Tuesday. They lose a shootout to Anaheim. The game went late. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people were looking to play the Knights yesterday against them in a fade situation. But they beat Ottawa. That's the only team that they have beaten at home during this streak, and that includes playing Arizona, what just about everybody considers the worst team in the league. Now they play once again at home to start off the month of December. Then they have to go on the road to Edmonton. That's never a pretty sight. This is a game that they need to have. I like to play on teams that are losing and are in basically a must-win situation. And, at the end of the season, if a team needs a must-win to make the playoffs, that's a totally different thing. Right now, the teams are coming in. It's just a regular season game for their opponents. But for them, it takes a lot of precedence here. And I would not be surprised at all if the Kings come out here and really play a good game, because the last thing I want to do is go on the road after this terrible homestand and go into Edmonton and get crushed. So we'll see if they're able to do it. But right now, I think the Kings are the way to look at this game. Just a great situational spot for them.
Yeah, there's no arguing that, Brian, whatsoever. I got to ask you, I know you're mostly a sides guy, and Carm always gets after me about putting people on the spot, but I'm just curious about, if you're, back in this Kings team, as far as the total goes, what's kind of a score that you think you might see? Because, when I look at this LA Kings team, they've been up and down, a mixture of 2-1 games and also those 5-4 games. But the weird thing that I've noticed, Brian, is in the high scoring games, they never come out on top. They could put up 4 goals, but somehow Anaheim puts up 5. They could put up 4 goals again, then somehow we look at a Carolina team that puts up 5. It's just like, it seems like to me, they have to play low scoring hockey in order to be successful. But, can you really do that against the Calgary Flames? That's the thing. Like, do you look towards an over or an under in this game if they're going to be successful?
Luckily, I don't have to worry about it, but I will say that the most they scored last month in the entire month of November was 5 goals. So it's not a team, and it was in Toronto of all places, but it's not a team I'm looking to score a lot of goals. I just think it's because of the need for this team. I think it's a situation where they really pack it in defensively. But I can't argue with your, over 5 numbers. The numbers have shown that that's the way to go. Luckily, since I basically only pick sides for the most part, 99% of the time I don't have to deal with it. And I do have 3 sides on today's card I really love. So, yeah, I understand both ways. I'm not going to get involved with it just because I'm just not very good at totals.
Well, you mentioned the situation. It is a great spot, and who wants to go into Edmonton on a bad note? I don't think anybody wants to go into Edmonton on a bad note. Guys, make sure you check out Brian Leonard, Leonard Sports on Twitter, WT.buzz/BL, number 2 in hockey last 30 days, number 2 in hockey this year and last year. Absolutely the definition of consistent, Mr. Brian Leonard. You love to see it. I'll go right back to you, Brian. Just want to ask you what you have up for customers at WagerTalk.com for tonight and maybe going into the weekend.
Yeah, we swept the board yesterday. 2 college basketball. We haven't mentioned college basketball. Number 2 on the site, college basketball the last month. Just been a tremendous run. I believe we're 22-12 in college hoops. So it's been a really nice run. Swept the board 3-0 yesterday. 1 hockey, the Anaheim that we talked about. So it was a nice underdog winner. And then 2 college basketball. I believe we won 6 out of the last 7 days now overall. And most of it has been college basketball and hockey. Might as well stick with what's working for us. But we've got 3 hockey up for today, all in one package, 3-4% plays. So I didn't have anything quite strong enough to make a 5%. And we know we're 15-3 in our career on 5s, but 4s have been very good also. And we've got 3 of them going tonight for only $29 in one package. Originally looked over the college basketball card, didn't see anything with the numbers that are out there. I'll take another look later and see if we get any line movements that work in our direction. But as of right now, it looks like hockey is all we have today, and I'll put up a free play up on the site. Hopefully we'll put it up in college basketball and get somebody a winner that way. But yeah, been a really nice run for us.
Great stuff, Brian. Yeah, awesome. And like we always say, it's better to, get that package, get a 3-day, get a 7-day, or get that group together 1-day package than just buying one play. Brian has several 4% plays up on the ice tonight. Carm, what about you, buddy? What's going on for you tonight in the NHL or otherwise?
Yeah, obviously the long-term packages, even the 3-day or 7-day, I always advocate taking the 3-day package on Friday just because you're going to get all of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's plays. And with so many sports, college football, NFL, hockey, soccer, basketball, there's so much going on that just grab someone, or the 1-day power pass. If you see someone has 2 or 3 cards up, it's better than getting just the one play, I think. As far as NHL, a couple games loaded there, a couple games in soccer. I'm going to add another 1 or 2 to each one of those packages at some point this morning after the show. But a big week ahead. I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of plays tonight, Andrew, 5% play up for Kevin Dolan in NHL. So I figure we should mention that on the NHL show. Last year, he did extremely well with his 5% NHL plays. So you can get that over at WagerTalk.com on Kevin's Cappers page.
Great stuff, Carm. Let's keep that going. Let's keep this train going. Well, actually, I actually have to say, because Kevin hasn't been on the show that much, but I want to let everybody know, if somebody hasn't been on the show, we're going to try and get and mix things up. I'm going to be away not next week, but the following week. We're going to try and get a lot more guests on the show during that time span. But these guys are crushing it. Just because people aren't on the show, don't be shy to go grab their hockey plays. Kevin has absolutely been crushing it in the NHL over the past several years. So make sure you grab his top play. He doesn't release that many 5% plays. He's not very high volume with them. So make sure you check them out. We've had Kevin on the show a few times this year. But just because someone isn't on the Puck Time show every single week doesn't mean that you shouldn't go grab their plays. Check them out over at WagerTalk. It's a great analysis, and you'll get a top play from Kevin Dolan. We have our last game on the board, Chicago Blackhawks and the Washington Capitals. And I'll tell you what, guys, this Washington Capitals team and what Alexander Ovechkin has been able to do this season with the injuries that they've had on that team is pretty spectacular. It's pretty amazing. I grew up a Sidney Crosby fan, so I was always kind of, cheering on that battle between those two. There's that rivalry between those two. You're always keeping track of points, goals, who has the most cups and all that kind of stuff. But the goal scoring capability that Alexander Ovechkin has and the amount of people that he brings towards him is just absolutely unbelievable. And now they're starting to get a little bit healthier again. Their defense are actually playing pretty well, albeit they're coming off that crazy game against Florida. And I'm sure Brian will discuss it. But, man, I'm very impressed with this Capitals team this year and the way they've been able to fight through some adversity with all the injuries throughout their lineup. And Chicago, well, we kind of know what their story has been this year. Brian, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I was on Washington in that game, and I believe it was my only loser that day. And I thought I was in really good shape. A lot of people were on the opposite side, and I said, well, I kind of like being the lone wolf sometimes. It worked out yesterday. It didn't work out with Washington, as they just fell apart in that game. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're looking to play that game tonight. Chicago, you take a look at what they've done as of late in the month of November. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They went 2-3 on the road in November, which isn't bad until you take a look at the teams that they beat. They beat Seattle Kraken and they beat Vancouver. The games that they had lost, they lose to Winnipeg by 4. They lose to Edmonton by 3. They lose to Calgary by 3. And this team is just as good as any of those. And Washington's a team that if you take a look at what they have done, they've lost 2 straight games. Now they're back home. They haven't been back home until I believe it was the 12th of November, which I think is a Donnie Marie song, you come to think of it. You wouldn't know, but I'm thinking Carmine might. But anyway, so it's been a long time since they've been back home, coming off an embarrassing loss, playing a team that they should be able to beat up on. I don't go around looking to lay $2 favorites for the most part, but that's the only way I could take a look here. And we talked about earlier when I was talking about the teams in the plus, goals plus or minus per 60. I mentioned they were plus 1.32. That was tied for the best with the Flames. So this is a team that does very well. They're very good at home and coming off of a tough situation. Now back home where they haven't been in a long time. I expect the best out of Washington tonight, and I think it's going to be a blowout.
It definitely sets up for a pretty good bounce back spot, Brian? and I think it will be for them tonight. Are you on the same page, Carm?
Yeah, I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel here. Can Chicago win tonight? Of course they can. It's the NHL. On any given night, a team can win as a big dog, but I'm not going to take them. They're 2-8 on the road this season. And Brian mentioned it. Vancouver and Seattle were those wins. This is different. This is in Washington against a Capitals team they've been good this year off a loss, 6-2 thus far this year off a loss. So that's pretty good. And 4 straight at home. They've scored 21 goals in those 4 games. And a couple of those were some very good teams in the Pittsburgh Penguins and Florida Panthers. I'm probably looking at the team total here. You can get the Washington team total, Andrew. I know you love those. Over 3.5 goals for Washington tonight, minus 120. If you think they're going to win and continue to score as they have in their last 4 at home, then take the team total. And once they hit 4, you're a winner. You can switch it to a different game.
That's what's great about team totals, Carm. You're right. And the funny thing is about betting those team totals, like Carm said, obviously we're hockey fans, but you see them score that 4th goal and it's just like, you just get to, who cares? Who cares what happens now? They cannot score. They cannot go down. You've reached that team total. Take a deep breath and you can flip channels. If you don't feel like watching that game anymore, you can. And with the way that they've been scoring and the goals that the Blackhawks over time have proven they give up, that's actually a really good play. And, with the price we're getting with the Capitals, that might be the way I look as well, just like Carm at 3.5. But Brian, I don't lay big prices that much. And just like you said, nobody likes to, always do that. But I can understand why you're looking to do that in this situation. And when it's applicable, it's all about betting the proper numbers. So I'm right there with you on that. But I do like the team total idea from Carm. One interesting note, guys, there's these different bets that I've seen become a lot more popular. And I'm going to talk about it this week on Friday on our Prop It Up show. It's the combo bets between the money line, who's going to win the game, and the total. And those have always been around, but more sports books or more websites are starting to offer it. So you can get the Capitals and over 5.5. You can get that around plus 120, 25, So even though they'll probably do the bulk of the scoring, you can get them to win the game plus the total to go over as little kind of two-teamer combo on the game and get a pretty decent price on that as well. It's been kind of a new thing I've been doing with big favorites along with looking at the team totals. It's a great spot to look towards. But that's 4 games we've discussed here. We got some best bets coming up at the end. I asked these guys what they have up, and I'm just real quick going to say for me, I'm super excited. I have a 5% UFC play for this weekend that I am posting. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago on the show. I don't talk about my UFC that much, and probably because you've got guys like Kyle Anthony and Gianni the Greek on the website, and it's pretty hard to stack up against those guys. But I'm actually number 1 at the website in 4% UFC plays on the year. UFC has been great, and I very, very seldom release 5% UFC plays, but I do have one for this weekend. So you can find that at WagerTalk.com. Don't worry, I'll still have some NHL up. I wanted to mention I have that UFC play up, and I'm going to kick things off with the best bets. And I'm going to go ahead here with the Boston Bruins here against the Nashville Predators. I think it's a short price. I like them as a bounce back team. I like the quotes I've seen coming out of this locker room. And I just don't think that Nashville can continue to score the way they are. I don't think they have that many weapons, and I feel like we'll see the depth show up tonight for the Boston Bruins. Also, it wasn't the best goaltending display for them in their last game. They have the goaltending talent, and they will have it tonight for them. So Boston Bruins minus 120 for me, my show best bet. Carmel, I'll throw it to you, man. Any last second promos and your best bet for today?
Yeah. So I already mentioned a couple of games up in soccer, a couple of games up in NHL. We'll be adding another one to each package shortly. My best bet I'm going to mention, and this is a look-ahead team. So I did this last year and the year previous when I think a team is about to go on what should be a good winning run for them. And it's the game that we didn't talk about today, but is a big one tonight still. The New York Islanders back in action after the COVID break. Some of the players returning, like Anders Lee, back in the lineup. Still a couple guys that are missing. Zdeno Chara is still missing. There obviously Brock Nelson is injured, so he's out 2 to 4 weeks. But this is a team after a 13-game road trip to start the season, come home, open up their new arena, have COVID issues, have to play, and lose all 4 games to Calgary, Toronto, the Rangers, and Pittsburgh. They're back in action tonight. They're laying $1.30. Watch what happens tonight if they look good. And listen, these aren't players. I'm going to mention it again. These guys weren't on ventilators in the dressing room. These are a COVID protocol list. These guys were still on the bike, keeping in shape. I don't expect there to be a downside to this. And this is who they play next: the Sharks, the Wings, the Hawks, the Sens, the Preds, the Devils, and Wings. Those are their next 7 games. They're likely going to win at least 5 of those games. This is a team that, much like St. Louis, when they were in last place at New Year's, they started playing playoff hockey early on, and they went on to win the Cup. I'm not saying these guys are going to win the Cup, but they are going to start winning some games. Hopefully it starts tonight. Minus 130 as your show best bet. And look at playing on the New York Islanders over the next week and a half to 2 weeks, guys.
Great stuff, Carm. Not only a bet for tonight, but also looking at a situational spot for moving forward and a schedule spot, I guess. And that's one thing Carm's taught me. I always tell you guys, not just looking ahead at the next 2 or 3 games, look ahead the next 5 to 7, 7 to 10 games and try and find some look ahead spots ahead of time. Don Buster mentioned he's been doing that for years as well. It's clearly worked for him. Brian, you're up to bat, man. What are your plays for tonight? What's your best bet for tonight?
Yeah, I've got those 3 hockey plays up, all 4% plays. I do want to talk a little bit about college football. I'm a 1985 graduate of Akron University, grew up in Cleveland, followed the MAC for years. Used to make big money in the MAC when they were on the added board in college football, because none of the guys betting big money were even playing the MAC because they were circle games. But I've always had a lot of success in the MAC. Another big year in the MAC, and they've got the MAC championship this weekend, and I've got a play up on that. That's my only football play up right now. I'll get back to the game we just talked about, and I do want to admit I made a mistake. I was talking about Washington not playing since November 12th at home. That was a mistake. I looked at some other game and confused the teams. And actually, there wasn't a song by Donny Iris called the 12th of November. It was the 12th of Never. And I can't believe, as a heavy metal fan, I'm actually remembering a little pop song from the 1970s, but popped into my head, so I had to say it. But anyway, Washington will be my play, my best bet on the show. And Carmine hit on it. And when you were talking about playing team totals over, the last 4 games for Washington at home, scoring 5, 6, 6, and 4. I think that'll be easily accomplished again tonight. Maybe that's something I'll take a look at. I'll play Washington team total over, and maybe even play the game over in that regard. So hopefully we've got a lot of good information here, and we can get more than one winner out of this game.
Let's do it. Sounds great to me, Brian. Always great to have you on the show. Make sure you guys check out Brian over at WagerTalk, number 2 in NHL. Power play recap. I'm on the Boston Bruins, -120. Carmine looking at the Islanders, -130 tonight, and also moving forward. And Brian Leonard with the Washington Capitals, -200, and a great spot for them tonight. I want to thank all of you guys for watching, whether it's live, archive, listening to us via podcast form. We do appreciate all of you guys. And on behalf of Carmine, Brian Leonard, I'm Andrew McInnis, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Founded in 1957, the Gold Sheet is the country's longest-running sports betting newsletter. Each week, the Gold Sheet team delivers analysis on NFL and college football games, along with NBA and college basketball matchups. The Gold Sheet maintains in-depth point spread and results logs, giving sports bettors and enthusiasts the insights needed to maximize their wagers. For over 60 years, Gold Sheet readers have received key releases based on power rankings on all teams, and for the first time ever, you can now get these selections exclusively at goldsheet.com, wagertalk.com, and sportsmemo.com.